If you've been around here since last winter, you'll know that the cozy robe means one thing, and that is it's time for a reading vlog. Hi everyone, Rosie here. Welcome back to my channel. For those of you who might just be joining us, I get very cold, so my very fuzzy purple house coat makes a lot of appearances in reading vlogs. I'll probably be wearing it for most of this one. But more importantly, making an appearance is House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski. This was on my December TBR, as you will maybe have seen. If not, that'll be linked up above if you want to check that out. But presumably, you're here because you want to see me read this book, which is, from what I know, very strange. It's like a book within a book within a book or something, where there's a core story about a family in a house that's weird, and then there's the story of someone who finds that manuscript and is researching and learning more about that. Then maybe there's one more layer on top. I don't know. I do know there's some very interesting ways of displaying text in this that I am really looking forward to, and I'm just generally excited. This is a book that was on my radar but not on my immediate TBR, but when Sina of Beating Around the Book announced her read-along, I knew I had to jump on the bandwagon and get a copy, which doesn't look that big on the shelf, except for the fact that it's a huge book. Like, look at this, it's bigger than my head, and it feels hefty in my hand. So it's time that I got to start on this. This vlog is going to be spoilery. I don't think I'm going to be able to talk about it in vlog format without spoiling things. So if you haven't read it yet and you don't want to be spoiled, stop watching now. I will discuss it probably in my December wrap-up and then in my January wrap-up. I'm planning on talking about it in both because I think I'll read it over 2 months. I can't think of any other introduction that I need to do, so I'm going to start reading and I'll touch base once I've made a bit of progress. Sina promised in her introduction video that this wouldn't actually be that scary and that even a scaredy cat like me would be okay with this, but I just read the introduction and now I'm kind of worried. That was actually, like, I know it's not gonna make me go crazy. It's a novel. It's gonna be okay. But, like, as I'm reading it, it's like, oh, but is it? Is it gonna be okay? Maybe this book does have magic powers? This is a very long book, and these vlogs will get enormously long if I check in every few minutes, but I'm intrigued. I'm like 3 chapters in now. Don't know how to talk about the structure of this book. This is spoilery, so presumably most of you have read it and will understand that. I'm so intrigued. I can tell that this is a book that I could just get sucked into. I've been reading for I think close to an hour, but I could easily sit here and read the next chapter. I'm not going to because I do need to sleep, but I could. So I think it'll be the perfect kind of slow book, like long, and it's going to take a long time, but it won't feel long while I'm reading it, which makes all the difference. I have so many thoughts and so many things I want to learn, but also I don't want to know anything. Like, there's the thing where the word house, no matter how it appears in the text, is always in blue. I don't know why. And part of me wants to ask, but part of me also really wants to read without knowing and see what I find out as I'm going. I think this is going to be really cool. I'm really intrigued to see how this plays out. Okay, it's a couple days later now, and I've just hit the first point where I'm skipping something. I know that this is a book that you can read in sort of like any order. There's all sorts of different approaches. People read it in all sorts of different ways. What I'm doing, what makes most sense to my brain, is reading along in the main text and reading footnotes as they come up. I'll pause, I'll read all of that, and then return to the main text. When it refers to an appendix or something like that, then I'll go check that. But for the stuff where it says, oh, we discussed that this theme is discussed more in chapter 9 or whatever, I'm not jumping ahead. I figure I'll get to that when I get to that. I just wanted to pop on and say that I have actually, as I said, reached a point where I'm skipping something. And I'm in chapter 5. I think I'm still in chapter 5. Yeah. And there's like a more than 2-page long footnote that is just a list of names. My brain can't process that. I'm sure I could if I literally had to, but I find that impossibly difficult to read, so I'm skipping it. Another juncture point, just like 8 or 10 pages later, there's a note from the editors saying, those who wish to interpret Johnny Truant's asides, his part of the story on their own, ignore this. But if you want to have some insight into him, read this section of the appendix. I think I'm going to skip that section for now. It's so weird. This book is making me realize how much I'm used to completely surrendering control to the book. I'm not used to reading books, and I'm not used to reading in a way where I make decisions about this. I totally get why people love this. I've just finished chapter 7, so I think I'm now about a seventh of the way through the book. I've read about 100 pages. I feel like I'm forgetting half the things I want to say. So this might be meandering, but I mean, hey, if there's ever a book for meandering thoughts, it's this one. One thing I definitely want to touch on is how much I love the structure of this. I think I've mentioned before how interested I am these days in books that have a sort of multi-leveled framing of books where the narrator is not only narrating the story, but narrating it while they're writing the book that you're reading, or books where it's framed as this is a manuscript that was discovered somewhere. I was first, I think, turned on to this style when I read The Name of the Rose by Umberto Eco in January of this year, and well, that book, I didn't love every aspect of it, although, oh my goodness, the labyrinths, they keep coming back. It sort of made me start thinking about that, and I can't think of any other examples now. I think it's going to be hard for any book to live up to it after House of Leaves. The way that this story is told, with the Navidson record at the core, and then Zampano, I think that's his name, his non-fiction book about the Navidson record being the central story, but then also the footnotes from Johnny Truant, who's discovered this record and is trying to figure out what's going on, because as far as he can tell, it's a non-fiction book about a documentary that doesn't exist. All of that is what is making this book for me. I think if I was just reading a straight horror novel about a haunted house, a weird house, what would we even call this house? A fucked up house? I don't think that would have that much of an effect on me, because that is just a novel. But in this, because it's got all of this framing, even though I know intellectually and logically that this is just a novel, it's still just a story. All of that framing makes me more immersed and makes the core story of this fucked up house so much more impactful. I don't know why that's the case. I don't know if that's the case for everyone. I assume that it's a pretty common reaction, and then that's why this book is such a cult favorite. I do feel like I had other thoughts while I was reading today, but I can't remember what they are, so hopefully I will remember those and update you on them next time I read a bit. I took a break for the last week because it was the Queer Lit Readathon. There's a vlog, you can see that up here if you would like, and I was focused on those books, so I wasn't reading House of Leaves, but I am back to it. I'm now in chapter 9. I have thought, and this is a spoilery vlog, so this is the perfect place to share them. I've just read one of the Johnny Truant passages. In this one, he's talking about how he kind of hooked up with this chick who he was getting information from, and it's very weird on multiple levels. Just reading the text is so stereotypical male porno fantasy that it just feels kind of sleazy. You're just sitting there being like, I don't really want to read this, but also what if there's important information, so I don't want to skip it. But then on the second level, I'm sitting here going, yeah, but Johnny seems like a super unreliable narrator, so this might not even be something he's describing as that actually happened. This might just be him making shit up to seem cool. Then I think, okay, but if he's the kind of character who makes this sort of shit up to seem cool, I also don't like him. I'm still really enjoying the book. I'm finding it super fascinating. Also, maybe this is just my eyes, I find the Johnny font so much harder to read, and I really don't know why. I think it was Noah of Everyone who reads it must converse, who mentioned this before we started, that fighting with the physical book is part of the reading experience, and I'm feeling that so hard. I'm still in chapter 9. I'm going so slowly, but like I legit had to get up and clean my glasses and put in eye drops and turn another light on behind me because I was having so much trouble just physically reading the words. That might just be me being kind of like dozy on a Sunday afternoon, not content-wise, but just actual reading-wise. One of the hardest to read books I've read in a long time. Wow. I think it just took me almost 3 hours to read chapter 9, and that should make me want to put the book down and read something lighter for a while, but I just want to keep going, so I think I'm going to start on chapter 10. Things are so intense. 2 of the explorers seem to be dying or about to be killed in the labyrinth, and Johnny is going so off the rails, and it is just wild to me that I'm not even a third of the way through this book yet, and clearly there must be so much left to come that yeah, I kind of just want to keep reading, and I'm going to lean into that. Okay, I'm partway through chapter 10. Definitely going to keep reading, but I think I just noticed something for the first time, and I don't know if it's significant or not, so I thought I would share. I'm reading one of Johnny's footnotes. I know I talk about those more. I don't know why. They're the ones where I seem to have ideas more than the text itself. Anyways, in this footnote, Johnny says, ever since leaving the labyrinth, and then he continues on about his experience, but I'm like, oh wait, I don't think he's been in the labyrinth yet that we know. So did something happen, or is he bullshitting? Oh my goodness, the structure of this book majorly distorts time, and I love it. I feel like I've said that about everything I've brought up so far, but it's true. It is so cool. I just read chapter 10, and I'm gonna force myself to stop here and make some food, but after spending almost 3 hours on chapter 9, chapter 10 was like 20 minutes, despite being twice as long, because it's so spaced out, and it just, the reading experience keeps shifting, and it makes me as the reader feel so caught off guard. I never feel stable. I never feel like I really know what's happening or what's going to happen or how things are going to proceed, because everything, not just the story, is full of twists. I am so excited to get back into this and keep reading it, and I feel so much more like, okay, I can tackle this. When reading chapter 9, I was feeling a little bit, oh boy, what have I gotten myself into? Because it was interesting, but it was such hard work. But knowing that it is kind of balanced makes it a lot more exciting. I haven't read any of this since last weekend, and that seems to be the pattern these days. I was reading another book for another read-along, because apparently December was actually very busy. I think this is a book that actually sort of works for that. I could totally see how this would be amazing to absolutely just binge through and read in the span of like a couple days or a week and just get so immersed in it. But honestly, I'm also really enjoying taking a bit of a slower pace, taking some breaks. That's working right now, so yeah, that's good. Today I did read chapter 11 though, and I don't know if I have any super huge thoughts. There's been some discussion in the Discord group about how Johnny Truant's side of the story makes so much more sense after you read the Whalestow letters, and it is tempting. It's tempting to skip to the appendices and read those, but I already feel like this is a book that I'm going to want to reread. I can tell that this is a book that would probably be even better the second time around, and I think it would be sort of interesting to let that be a different experience. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm not gonna read them yet, but when I get to the end, I will read them. And the next time I read this book, I'll go in having that different perspective, and I'm sure it will be a very different experience, at least for the Johnny side. I think I could vibe with that. This was especially coming up in my head when I was reading chapter 11, because there's some extensive footnotes about Johnny talking about or bullshitting about his sexual adventures, etc. And I was feeling gross about it, but then I was remembering that I think those stories that he shares have a very different vibe after the letters, so I'm rolling with it for now. I'm not going to complain for now, and I'll see how I feel about it at the end when I read the Whalestow letters. Another element that I really was noticing this time around is how effective footnotes are at creating suspense in this book. In the Tom transcripts, where it's the transcripts of what's going on with Tom while he's waiting at the top of the stairs while Will and Reston have gone down, there's this one point where Tom's talking to the camera, and then he turns the light off and it says click, black. And then there's a footnote. And I'm mostly just following the footnotes as I come across them. So I went down and I read, and I'm reading these like many pages of Johnny again talking about his sexual conquests. And the whole time just thinking, holy shit, did Tom just die? He might have. He didn't, but it seemed like a possibility. And I love how it's broken up that way. And obviously it doesn't have to be either, right? You could just skip to the next part of Tom's story and see what happens. But I actually enjoy that moment or those minutes of, I'm still reading this story and I don't know yet if something massive just happened. I just finished chapter 16. I have made so much progress this weekend. I felt like I really dived into it, but now it is time for a bit of a break. My eyes are starting to go. As you can see, I've got the lamp on behind me because otherwise I actually just find the text on the page so hard to read. I think that's because of this book specifically. I think usually I can read physical books without too much issue, but I do mostly read on my e-reader, so I'm not totally sure. Anyways, I'm finding it so hard to read. There's a section in I think chapter 15, maybe chapter 16, where it's basically like reading the footnotes of an academic document talking about radio dating these wall samples, but without the actual document text. So I thought it was so effectively feeling like an academic paper or a textbook or something like that, that legit my eyes found it hard to read. My brain found it hard to process that information because it felt so strongly like something that I associate with struggling to read. All right, editing Rosie popping on to close things off here. I have not read any more since I finished filming clips for this vlog, and I need to get it wrapped up, so I'm just going to say that I hope that these initial thoughts have been interesting. I'm so excited to dive into the rest of the book. I'm really looking forward to finishing and talking about that. If you are not already subscribed, make sure you hit subscribe. There's going to be, I think, a second vlog probably in January. At this point, I think I do want to do some sort of discussion video that's less spoilery, so if that's something that's interesting to you, that will also be coming, also probably at some point in January. For now, though, let me know down below if you have read House of Leaves. What do you think? Did you enjoy it? Did you hate it? What was your experience like? I am so interested to know how everyone else is getting on with this or has gotten on with it. And if you like this video, please leave me a like down below. If you'd like to see more of my videos, please hit subscribe, and thank you for watching.